the time off that we had between the tours and the recording, I think people kind of separated themselves from each other, and there was less collaboration as far as new songs and new material. So it was awkward in that if I brought a piece of music to Brian, he'd be more hesitant to just put lyrics to it because he'd be working with somebody else other than me. And I wrote five or six tunes on Antichrist, but it's kind of fractured. I mean, there's no real cohesive. I mean, it's a good record and it's got good tunes on it, but there's no cohesive writing as far as all the tracks. I mean, there's some that stand out as better or worse than the others, but it was awkward as far as like the way the material came together and the way it went on the record. But it was still a good record. When we initially started recording Antichrist, it was, what was it? I think February or March of '96, and there wasn't a real clear-cut plan for the production of the album as far as the art of it, as far as the music. It was just like we had a bunch of ideas up in the air, and different people would make decisions at different times for different reasons. And it was kind of messy, and it was socially messy too. And also when we started, it was decided that we weren't going to record some older songs that we hadn't released yet, that we had only put out on 4-track. Like a fan favorite and one of my favorites, Suicide Snowman, was rejected. And it sounds small, but I mean, that was a big deal because that was a song that people loved, and it was just really good, and I couldn't believe it was said by Reznor that, we're not going to do this one. Well, there's 16 tracks on the record, and there's about 10 more that went unfinished or undeveloped. So if at the beginning of the recording phase you're shutting out this tune, that tune, and the other tune, well, what about all the crap you just slog through? So, tensions rose and people alienated each other, and it got pretty bad. Unbeknownst to the public, Antichrist Superstar was a much darker, serious, even threatening record. A lot of the fun and mayhem and surreal silliness that was with Marilyn Manson, even up to the point of Sweet Dreams coming out or Smells Like Children coming out, was pretty much gone. Was pretty much swallowed up by the more threatening, darker thing that came from Antichrist Superstar, and that was like the biggest, most significant change in the band and the band's appeal, because it was, once you get darker and louder and scarier, you can't say, "Oh, I was just kidding." You've kind of got to stay there. I mean, Ministry went the other way around. Well, they didn't really go the other way around. They kind of went the same way, but they used to be very dancey, very much more towards the dance floor, and more melodic. But then, like around 1990, they were the masters of industrial sound with like incredibly heavy, tough drum machine and guitar sounds that were just like ridiculous. But once you do that, once you change your sound that way, you can't go back. Or if you do, you better make it interesting, because, new fans, like anybody that didn't own Portrait or Smells Like Children, that was into metal and then heard, you know, Beautiful People and went out and bought Antichrist Superstar, that's all they know. So if they were to hear something earlier, they might not like it as much, or maybe they would. But I mean, if you come in at a certain point in a band's career, you judge them by that time, you know. It is a concept album in that it's filled with concepts, but there's no common, real, solid thread. You know, there's lots of ideas. It's kind of like the Da Vinci Code. There are facts, but there's a lot of color and flavor and distractions and puzzles and clues that don't mean anything. So I mean, that's one reason it's a great record, because it makes people, it gets the conspiracy theorists going. What does this mean? Well, you know, if I tell them it doesn't mean anything, it's going to break their hearts, because I know it doesn't mean anything, and they want it to, you know. And that's the new psychic phenomenon. It's wanting, you know, despite somebody coming on TV and saying, you know, this is my uncle, he was in this suit, there's no Bigfoot, this is the suit. Doesn't matter to them, you know. They want to believe, they want to hang on to what they believe. UFOs, abductions, assassinations, all that stuff, you know. And that's, I'm not saying Antichrist Superstar is responsible for that, but I think it came out at the right time and helped breed that. And, you know, if that's the case, that makes it an extra special record.